Hello everyone, my name is Kaseem. Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we are going to watch my reaction to Jack Dorsey's section of the B word. I basically broke down Elon Musk, Cathie, and now I'm doing Jack Dorsey's section. I really do love hearing from these people, and I love to share my thoughts with you guys, my subscribers, and my curious friends that you're stumbling onto this video for the first time. I do things like this once in a while because I do like to hear what these people have to say. Some of them I'm investing in the things that they're doing, like Elon Musk and Cathie. Not so much of Square. I haven't really looked into investing into Square as much and what the future holds for them. But I do admire Jack Dorsey as well. He's a great guy. He's a thoughtful guy. And, you know, he's been able to build a great platform, Twitter and Square. So these people, I take my time to listen to them whenever those three brains come together. So we are going to look at Jack Dorsey's comments and what he has to say on the B word. We're going to look into that in today's video. So what we're going to do now is we are going to get right into it. Let me just pull it up for you guys. We're going to get right into it, and we are going to take a look at what Jack Dorsey have to say on the B word.
Jack, how about you? What shaped your views of Bitcoin?
Remember, this is a conference. This is a conference on Bitcoin. So Elon Musk talked about his thoughts on the Bitcoin. Cathie talked about her thoughts on Bitcoin as well. Now we're gonna listen to Jack Dorsey, and it's just Jack Dorsey's parts alone. If you want to watch all what each of them have to say, the full video will be in the description below. You can go check out the B Words YouTube channel.
The network and the community. It's deeply principled. It's weird as hell. It's always evolving, and it just reminded me of the internet when I was a kid. And I encountered alt cypherpunks when I was fairly young, and this was a topic of discussion for years. I didn't touch it until 2008 when we started Square. Elon and teams at X and PayPal inspired a lot of what we were trying to do, trying to bring in more to a physical world. But we encountered this crazy predatory system that was slow, that was obtuse. And I think, one of the things that we tried to do, which X and PayPal also tried to do, is build an abstraction layer around this complication and around this predatory nature that the financial industry can tend to be, and make it work for people. But when I saw Bitcoin in 2009, you see a chance to replace the whole foundation. And everything that Elon was talking about in terms of ACH and the credit card networks were built with very different agendas in a very different time frame. And it's crazy that they still exist, and they have scaled, but they just are not relevant to today, and they're certainly not relevant to the future, especially when you consider the entire world and countries like Nigeria or Ghana or India.
Listen, Jack Dorsey is a big advocate for Africa liberation in terms of their money, because a lot of African governments, they don't run their economy quite well. They print so much money, they've inflated their way out of everything, and it's the people that get to that end up being hurt. Okay, financially, it's the people that end up being hurt.
And it's interconnection with countries like the United States and Canada and all over Europe. So what really drove my thinking and drives my passion around it is, like, if the internet gets a chance to get a native currency, what will that be? And to me, it's Bitcoin, because of those principles, because of that creation story.
That's the thing that I keep saying in all this video. The fact that Bitcoin was the first provable internet money is actually a big deal. It's a big deal. Like, I'm literally going to be this is gonna be me announcing it now. I'm probably gonna be dollar cost averaging maybe about $50 a week into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ethereum especially, just right off the bat now, because these two cryptocurrency have proven themselves that they are here to stay, you know. So Jack talking about the same thing, like these currencies are going to be massive in the future, especially when the whole world gets online.
Because of its resilience, because of the number of tests it's been. But what inspires me the most is just the community driving it. It just reminds me of the early internet. It's the only reason that I have a career, because I learned so much from people like who are building Bitcoin today. And I continue to learn in that sense, and I'm so grateful for it.
So that's a good segue into the next question I'd like to ask you, Jack, is you said before that Bitcoin changes everything. Can you speak more to that?
Well, I just think that you know, a lot of what we experience in life, when you really get down to the foundation, a lot of our monetary policies, a lot of our monetary systems cause so much distraction and so much cost. And when you get to a system where,
because most banks, they make so much money from people, fees, late fees, these things that's supposed to be relatively free, especially in the United States. I've lived in Europe for a while, you know, hence the British flag right here, you know. I've lived in the UK for a bit. Like, the UK don't really have that much fees on bank compared to America. America, if they can charge you to deposit your money into your bank account, they will, you know. And Bitcoin is also a way to basically protect your future earnings and your future savings, basically. So he has a lot of points there.
you know, the potential for people to truly own it.
I agree.
They can verify it themselves. You don't have to have trust going in.
Yeah.
You don't have to trust it at all. You can verify it through source code or whatever your appetite is, and that any particular person can help drive the future of it. And at the same time, it's not controlled by any state. It's not controlled by any bank.
Yep.
It's not controlled by any corporation.
Yep.
And these three parties of people who participate in the network, people who mine, and also the developers, constantly debating the correct roadmap and the way forward, is a beautiful thing. And I don't know of many other consensus-based models that have existed.
That's a good point, because these people are constantly trying to improve it, constantly trying to make it better. You know, I mean, the people that are involved with Bitcoin are very, very smart people. Don't get it twisted, because these are people that were buying Bitcoin when it was $1, $2. So now, can you imagine if you have like 1,000 Bitcoin or 2,000 Bitcoin back then when it was $1, $2? Now you worth so much. All right. So these are very, very smart people.
Scale for this long with this amount of success, and we're still fairly early. So when, you know, I met a woman in Ethiopia 2 years ago, and she was trying to create the lift for Ethiopia. Elon, I think I reached out to you at that time as well, because she really wanted some Teslas. She still has to take paper fiat cash from her passengers and pay all of her drivers in the same way, because there's no monetary system that she can utilize. There's nothing digital. And Africa as a continent is hugely interconnected from a monetary standpoint, but also hugely taxed in that same way.
Yep.
So a lot of the potential that I see, you know, the internet having a native currency, helps her build her business in a much faster way.
Yep.
And also, if you consider,
and this kind of thing happens all over developing countries. Like, there's so much barriers to just try to start your business. Like, developing countries, like some part of Africa, they have so much talent of individuals. It's crazy. But there's also so much barriers that it's in their way that it's hindering them from starting their business. So an example that he gave, I'm sure that's everywhere all over Africa. I'm sure that's everywhere all over Africa, not just in Ethiopia.
Something like Bitcoin existing before YouTube, before Twitter, before Facebook, a lot of the business models that we have today would not be the same. We would certainly not have the dependency we have upon the advertising business model if Bitcoin existed pre-Twitter. And I think the amount of business models that it enables, the amount of innovation it enables going forward, especially when you can consider the whole internet instead of going country by country by country by country, which you have to whenever you're doing with finance, it really just opens the aperture. And that is what I want to see in my lifetime is a currency.
Yep. Can you imagine one currency that don't, like Bitcoin serve as one currency that people cannot control. People cannot inflate it away. It's widely accessible as long as you have internet. Like the potential for Bitcoin is just huge. I completely agree with what you're saying here. Huge.
See, that is.
I won't be surprised if in the future Bitcoin hits like maybe 500, $1 million, $2 million a coin. That's how valuable this thing is. People keep playing with Bitcoin, man.
Standard and sound for the internet that everyone can use.
I suspect among us, there's not a lot of debate about Bitcoin's potential as a store of value. But Jack, you referenced earlier it being or becoming the native currency of the internet. Can you speak more to that and also how it relates to maybe how institutions think about it?
Yeah, I mean, like just simple example. If I happen to be in Ghana and my family is in Nigeria, currently I can take anywhere from, and I need to send money back, anywhere from 10 to 30% off the top just to send that money back. Whereas if you just focus on the worldwide remittance problem, Bitcoin solves so many of those problems today instantly. Without having to go through any intermediaries or any slowness or complicated systems that a corporation or a state created. So I think having sound money that is separate from the state is the idea. Having it completely verifiable by everyone,
right? Because that is the idea of what he's saying is basically you're taking money away from the control of countries and government. I mean, like if we run back a couple of hundreds of years ago, the church used to be the state. Okay, the church used to be the government. So at some point they separated the church from the government. So now he's saying maybe it's time that we separate money from the government. I mean, Bitcoin is going to play a tiny little role in that, but government loves to control money. So I don't know how we're going to do that, but we'll see how things play out in the future.
The state, including corporations, including individuals, including developers who want to build on top of it, is quite powerful, and that's what keeps it secure and strong. And I think that's, we need more of that, which is why one of the reasons why this conversation is so important is as entities come into the space, it's not just buying an asset and holding on to an asset and treating it as an investment. There's something special that created this, and something precious and something very unique, which has to be protected, and we need to do whatever we can to help that thrive as well.
Okay. Jack, I'm curious, you've stated that Bitcoin incentivizes renewable energy. That's what we're talking about now. Do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, everything that Elon said and Kathie mentioned, but it's also incentivizing a lot of innovation in just energy space, and just like looking at unused energy. There's a company called Great American Mining that caps the methane flares on oil fields to power their rigs, and you just imagine, and you mentioned nuclear, Elon, as well, and just imagine all the unused energy that is just being wasted every single day, and being able to get that energy and converting it into a secure, sound, money system for the planet, feels like a worthy trade-off. And that's the sort of incentive that I think is most powerful, is like, how do we reuse what is being currently just dumped on the ground and wasted and not considered, and how do we do that at scale? And I think that's a bigger conversation. That
definitely, that's a valid point. You know, how do you take all this energy that's been wasted? A lot of things gets wasted. How do we convert them, use it for renewable energy, and especially if you can use it for something like Bitcoin that can even help the world in general. So
I think is missing. But I agree with everything that Elon has said, and also the paper we put forth.
Thank you. And it's a great transition to the next topic area, which is Bitcoin ethos. And what is Bitcoin ethos? I mean, Bitcoin was born as open source, and it's very transparent. There's also a staunch defense from the community around decentralization and a lot of the core principles of Bitcoin. So let's talk a little bit about that and what makes it special. Jack, Square has done a lot to support open source Bitcoin. Can you tell us a little bit about what Square has done and what advice you'd have for other institutions looking to follow in its footsteps?
Yeah, I mean, I was very skeptical of corporations when I was a kid, and I'm still skeptical of corporations today. And as we've used corporations to be, they've been great vessels for what we need to do and the ideas that we need to bring to the world. But Bitcoin is not that. And when we were considering Bitcoin and how Square intersected, I was really concerned with how we don't disrupt the community in a negative way, how we promote what is amazing about it, and how we help it grow in that way, in the way that it wants to. So we created Your Team, Steve, which is Square Crypto, which is hiring open source developers to work on whatever they want and whatever they think is most important to help Bitcoin. We created an organization called Copo, which we gave up all of our crypto patents so that the community can use them in defense against trolls and some crazy characters we won't name. And we continue to find ways that, like, following that Bitcoin path, we're going to create a hardware wallet. We're probably going to do a lot more in hardware. Everything that we do in the space is going to be completely open source, from the hardware design to the software.
Good. Like, Square has been able to do a good job so far when it comes to, modernizing, POS, like cashiers and all these things. Square has been able to do a great job so far. They've been able to bring it to the level of mom and pop. I can get a Square situation and collect credit card payment from people if I'm independent driver, if I'm independent barber, or if I'm an independent hairdresser or a nail salon person. So if they're able to create something like that can be easier for people to transact in Bitcoin and all these things, I think that would be great. And they probably would be able to make it faster and all that stuff. So Square has something here. I really have to look into Square stock in the future.
I'm taking in the community's push, and we're building a developer platform as well, in the same open development, open source, and completely transparent. So I think as institutions or companies like ours consider getting in the space, I think contribution back to the community is important.
Definitely.
Tesla did this with accepting payments for Tesla, finding security holes, and improving the stack. And as I said before, we can't just see this as an asset that we own and an investment vehicle. This is something that has the potential to change everything and make the lives of everyone on this planet better. Definitely. In some small, maybe marginal way, but those margins will be meaningful as they compound over time.
Definitely, because every little improvement that you can make, to the point that I can have a phone app and go to Africa and pay with the same currency that I use when I go to Thailand or something like that, and the currency remains stable, my wealth remains stable, I think that's a great thing. That is an absolute great thing. The incremental improvement that a company like Square can bring to the table is quite amazing.
That's great. Jack, how about you? How do you view your own personal role and the companies you run?
I think my own personal role through the companies I run is to really push for more decentralization. Like at everything that we intend to do with the wallet, being non-custodial, building a developer platform, focusing on non-custodial solutions. On the Square side is important, being completely open development and open source. But I also think it's important on the Twitter side as well. My biggest focus right now is on a decentralized social media protocol. We're calling it Blue Sky. It's super early, but we've learned a lot from what makes Bitcoin Bitcoin and why that's important. I've learned a lot in that sense as well. And I think, just continuing to push on that thread and show it with our actions every single day in support of this community that's taught me so much and I think will benefit so many people. That's what I'm focused on.
What about letting Twitter advertisers pay in crypto?
Yeah, I mean, I think enabling anyone. I mean, as you know, Elon, like if we had Bitcoin or a native currency for the internet before Twitter started, like it just creates so many different business models that we wouldn't have to be so dependent upon advertising generally. And sure. I do believe that that we have them, any form of payment that they want to use, we should be able to take. So absolutely, but I'm more focused on like how do we create economic incentives in the network itself without having to rely on advertising.
Okay,
great.
Yeah, it's funny. It kind of like Tesla's bank balances in Europe have negative interest rate. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, if you've got like 2% inflation on 1% interest, you're technically minus 1% return. But nonetheless, it is quite annoying to just see you.
Paying the banks to hold
the bank to keep your money. I'm like, what?
It is crazy.
Like, what? We should definitely move that into Bitcoin.
I believe Ray Dalio said, "Buy Bitcoin and not bonds." So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jack, you've talked about design being an underfunded area in Bitcoin, and Elon earlier mentioned usability could improve a lot. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. What do you see as the future of how can design impact Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Bitcoin network is beautifully designed as a protocol in the way it works. I mean, it went after a single problem and it does in an absolutely astounding way. But I think the endpoints of people getting into it is still a little bit confusing. So I think the more energy we spend on wallets and making sure that wallets are simple and accessible and they're non-custodial as well. Yeah. I think the best example of this is that I know of is probably this wallet called Moon, and it's just simple, straightforward. It's a great. It does an amazing thing with key management that my mom and friends new to Bitcoin can understand. Does amazing in storage, and it also has a very.
Those are the things that we need. When our parents, like my parents, like they don't really know much about technology or anything like that. When they can use it pretty easily, that is amazing.
For implementation of Lightning, so that you can use it in a transactional way without having to think about it, just with QR codes in a way that makes sense. So more work like that, I think, really brings us forward. Great.
Jack, what's your hope for Bitcoin?
My hope is that it creates world peace or helps create world peace. I mean, Elon said it earlier. Like we have all these monopolies of violence, and the individual doesn't have power. And the amount of cost and distraction that comes from our monetary system today is real, and it takes away attention from the bigger problems. Some of the bigger problems that Elon is trying to solve, like get us to a multi-planetary humanity. all these distractions that we have to deal with on a daily basis take away from those bigger goals that affect every single person on this planet, increasingly so. So it may sound a little bit ridiculous, but like you fix that foundational level and everything above it improves in such a dramatic way. So it's going to be long term, but my hope is definitely peace.
Of course. Well, that has been great. It's been great to hear what Elon, Cathie Wood, and Jack Dorsey have to say about Bitcoin. Definitely has inspired me to be able to, you know, constantly add money into my Bitcoin holdings now. I haven't really been adding much, so I'm going to be doing that on a regular basis now. Maybe target $100 or $50 a week or something like that, and just put that in over time and see where it goes. I mean, Bitcoin has been relatively resilient so far, and I'm looking forward to being able to add more as well. Inflation is high right now, and in cash, we're all losing money right now. So I think it would make sense to be able to grab a decent amount of money in Bitcoin. So anyways, thank you for watching. Appreciate you for watching. If you like what I do here, again, consider subscribing to the channel. Hit that like button. Appreciate you for that. Until next time, see you later. Love you all. Bye.